So, what does Philippe read to evolve?
What do I read?
Yeah.
I would tell you, I'm a big fan of the best book ever written, which is the Bible. So every morning I read verses from the Bible randomly because I find that scripture has a way of speaking to you. Like I said, God meets you where you are. I think that the scripture that you read, it'll hit you to what you're going through relevantly in that day or what you might be facing. And when you hit something in the day, you can always go back to it. So I'm big on the Bible. That's one thing. And then I read a lot of self-help books, right? So Buy Your Time Back is one I'm reading right now by Dan Martell. That's a good one.
We just finished that in the book club.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You need to join the book club.
I know I need to. I know my time is a little bit crazy right now, but no, that's definitely something I want to do. But no, I love reading books like that kind of challenge the conventional way of thinking on how you're maybe scheduling your life or how your perspective is. I'm a big student of Tony Robbins, so I love Tony Robbins. I love how he can shift a mindset real simply just by showing you a different angle, and then you being like, oh, wow, I never really thought about it that way. Like unblocking the blocks that we have. Because we all have them, and it doesn't matter how successful you are, you'll pick them up along the way, right? You get new identities, and you have new problems and new issues. But really, the Bible is where I get a lot of my strength from, a lot of my clarity from, because I just associate it to what I'm going through. And it's so funny that I'll have something going on in my life, and I'll read a verse, and I'll be like, man, this is directly for me, right? Like but it's all directly for me, right? So it's like it's an amazing read. But yeah, outside of that, I would say I like war books. I like reading about people's experiences in a war or in battles and things like that, because I think like it's amazing how some people get ultimate clarity in a total chaotic situation. And just thinking about that, like
It takes us back.
Yeah.
What's the trauma that drove all this?
What's the trauma that drove all this? I would say, I have amazing parents, old school European, great parents, but my dad lived a very meek life, meaning that he could have done so much more and he didn't because his fears set him back, his identity set him back, and they squandered their wealth. They just did not make good decisions financially. Amazing parents, emotionally great, loving parents. But just the way that they handled their finances and how they currently handle their finances is, I look at that and I say, I don't want to be that. I don't want that to happen to me. I want to be in control of my outcomes. I don't want to work for somebody for 30 years and have them just let me go and then be like, what do I do now? So I think I don't know if that's trauma necessarily, but I would say that's one of my big driving factors, that I just want to be better than my parents. Not that my parents are terrible, but I just want to be better than my parents. Like you should want to be better than your parents, right? I mean, that's the whole point. You're probably doing better than what your parents did. So, I mean, it's not to say that we have bad parents, just that's the way it should be.
No, I mean, I had two parents that were married there in my entire life until they passed. They probably never should have been still married. They were, it was a War of the Roses type of relationship.
But a lot of that.
That was neither here nor there. But it did shape me as being an only child with them. I, of course, wish to do better in my own personal life and my marriage, my being a mother and being a wife. I definitely achieve and want to achieve more than what my parents showed me. And it's not an easy road. There are times when you slip back into those same habits you observed as a child and you go, "Ooh, I better check myself there.
Exactly.
That's not good. Why am I doing this again?" And then you correct yourself. And it is absolutely, I fully, wholeheartedly agree with you. Reading the Bible and coming back to the basics of Scripture do teach us, just remind us what is right, what's right for us, where we need, our path we need to go, and direction to give us. And you can find all sources of inspiration and what you really want. And it's not about wealth. It's about overall well-being. It's about feeling good, doing well, helping others, and bringing others along with you for that ride. And as you grow together and you rise up together, that's not always what people translate in their lives of what their purpose is.
Right.
And it's hard. You have to find that for yourself. Every person has their own center and what's going to make it okay for them. But I am always interested to hear the stories of where entrepreneurs came from, where they started, what was that path that put them on that road. So, the shift happened here, and this is why it happened. And so whether it's a traumatic event or if it's just a trauma of a life experience of like, yeah, no, I don't want to repeat this again.
Yeah.
I want to do something different for myself and my family. Um, it's always of interest, and it's something that I think every person can benefit from, regardless, because there are those that are teenagers right now. They have no sense of direction. Maybe they're joining the military because that's the only thing that they got an option for that they feel they can do. And that's great. And that's an awesome place to go and to start because it gives you some sense of order and direction and organization and all
Some
those
life
things.
skills, right, that you can
Right.
use.
Yeah. And there's nothing bad about that. But it's not necessarily a life choice forever. It might be just for the here and now.
Yep.
To get you to the point where you go, okay, now I kind of have a sense of direction of what I want to do and where I want to go with that. And maybe you don't. Maybe you come out of it and you're still going, okay, I'm floundering still. What do I need to figure out here?
Right.
There's something else. And that's a point where we each of us have to navigate. Listening to stories like yours and others, it makes a difference in people's minds. Like, it doesn't matter. I could be from nothing. I can still achieve everything I want to achieve in life. Whatever that makes me happy and takes care of myself and my family, I'm good. But it doesn't mean you have to be born into the most awesome family and the most incredible wealth. No, most people are not.
Correct.
95% at least are not.
Right.
And we always hear about the rest, though. And that's the part that we get our images skewed of what's reality or not.
I agree with that because a lot of times you'll hear from, and I hear it now, people say, oh, when I talk about strategies and what you can do as a broker to make money and stuff, and people be like, oh, well, it's easy for you. And I'll be like, what part's easy for me?
Mm-hmm.
Which part? And people are like, well, what do you mean? I said, what part's easy for me? And they're like, well, you have money. I said, yeah, but I didn't always have money. I wasn't just woke up one day, got a license, and all of a sudden I had a ton of clients and made money.
Exactly.
I had to do these strategies and work through them. Oh, it's easy for you. What's easy for me?
Exactly.
You think problems don't happen? You don't think that I was meeting with my therapist, and there's actually a study that says that entrepreneurs suffer from more anxiety and depression than any other aspect of the industry, any industry. Doesn't matter what you're in, whether you're a cop, you're a firefighter, you're in the military, entrepreneurs suffer from more anxiety and depression than any of them.
I 100% agree with that.
We're in a professional category. We're the NFL of depression and anxiety, right? We play at a different level, take big risks.
Right.
I mean, look at the risk you guys took, right?
But I mean,
You built a freaking building, and now it's full, right? But before it wasn't, and it was like, oh, we got like 3 people in this building. What do we do now, right? We got all this space.
Absolutely.
exactly, and it's definitely people. I was thinking about this the other day on my drive in. Was like the concept of hard things, doing hard things, and some people may look at this feat of this building, for example, and quantifying it to myself is essentially it's hard. For me, there was hard aspects of it, but generally, it wasn't as hard as, I don't know, building a tech company or something else, right? Because what we were doing was it wasn't just building a building. No, it's a whole new idea and approach to working and living, and so implementing that for me that wasn't hard, but for somebody else that's extremely hard, and it kind of goes into the thing I was taught. I forget who taught me this lesson, but it's always stuck with me. It's
Clearly, it wasn't me.
pick the problems you want, because you will always have problems in life.
Yeah.
No matter where you go in life, you will always have problems. But the one thing you do have in life is choice.
Yep.
You have choice. You have the power of choice. You can choose your problems, right? And for me, I think a lot of people don't. They don't fully understand that aspect of choosing your problems, right? Some people choose the wrong problems, then get upset when the problems bite them in the ass.
Right.
Right. And it's when people say, well, it's easy for you. Like, is it? Because I'm still choosing problems.
Right.
Like, if I didn't choose any problems, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. I wouldn't be in business.
That's right.
Like, I'd be choosing somebody else's problems.
Exactly.
Which I'm then making that choice to choose somebody else's problems.
Correct.
And it is that domino effect.
It is, and it's funny that you say that because I heard this great saying, and I think it was in my men's group at church that they said this. They said, if everybody in this room put all their problems into a pile, you'd be running to that pile to get your original problems back.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone else is probably going through something that you're like, that's a different flavor that I don't want to taste, and I don't want that. And It's true what you say. We pick our own problems because we choose what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And we really are in charge of that. So I think, and problems are really just opportunities, right? Opportunities to grow or opportunities to get better. And when people avoid the problems, they're choosing other problems in the avoidance of the original problem. So
Absolutely.
I like that. That's a good perspective.
And to that point, we were in my men's group with Tom for Church of the Way. We were talking about the concept of choosing of your problems, but also like when you pray for stuff, people expect it's just going to hit you like in the face.
Mhm.
That love's going to just hit you in the face, or patience is just going to show up at your doorstep. And it's not that. It's more of God gives you an opportunity to have patience.
Yep.
God gives you an opportunity to have love. And I think there's actually a scene in Bruce Almighty.
It is one of the best scenes ever.
And it's
by
Morgan
the way.
Freeman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the one thing that sticks with me so hard when he's like, do you think when you pray for strength, God makes you strong? He gives
Yeah.
you an opportunity to be strong. Or patience. He does the one with patience too. And I can't tell you how right you are, because there's the fruit of the Spirit, right? And the two that I struggle with most is being patient and being gentle. I'm not a very gentle person. I'm nice and I'm kind, but I'm not very gentle in how I deliver my criticisms or how I deliver my outlooks. Okay?
That's your European parents'
Yeah,
upbringing.
exactly. Well, my mom is gruff. She's Portuguese, so she'll really tell you how it is. My dad's more quiet because he's Swedish, so he's a little bit more reserved, right? It's just different north and south
Yes.
in Europe. But it's funny because I pray every day for more patience and to be more gentle with people, and he will put the most annoying people and the most trying people in my life where I'm just looking at them and I'm like,
Okay, God.
here's the
what are we
opportunity.
doing here?
Here it is. Here's this opportunity. Let me quiet it down. Let me breathe. Let me do my little techniques. Let me see this vision from their eyes, and then we recollect and then react to this appropriately. But it's so true what you say, that those things, they don't knock on our door and say, oh, here you go, right? Just like when people pray for money, and then they get like all these opportunities and all this hard work that comes their way, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm slammed right now, and it's like, man, that's what you asked for.
Yeah. What's
And
the little story about the
It's
boat?
the story from The Pursuit of Happiness. Jaden Smith, when he's talking about the guy in the water and how he prays for God to come save him, and two guys on a boat come and try to save him, and the guy both times says, no, don't worry, God will save me. And then the guy gets to heaven, and the guy asks God, I prayed for you to save me, why didn't you save me? And God goes, I sent 2 boats, dummy.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
don't be blinded by your own thinking of what it's going to look like.
That's it.
And I think there's obviously a lot of reasons why people have issues with like integrating like religion or Christianity and business together and stuff like that. The people that do, they don't get the full picture, but
Yeah.
it's more or less that you really have to, it's blind faith, but it's also the fact that God will teach us lessons throughout it. And the way we pray for it and the way we think isn't always the way it's going to be, right?
Correct.
Like, hence why you have a lot of different religious wars, because they all believe God said one thing and it came to fruition a different way, right? But it's still God's word,
Right.
right? And there's just so many like for us, like we have our little like God moment was with our little pool ball. I think we've told it like a bunch of times, but we have a little pool ball that we found in the middle of the ground during construction, and it was during a time where we were very like uncertain with our financing. We weren't sure if we were going to get financing. We had an SBA approval, but we didn't have a bank willing to do the deal.
Right.
So it was kind of like this weird limbo of like the SBA believes in you, but even the fact that SBA believes in you, you can't get
Funded, right.
get funded. So Mom was out here making sure there's no nesting animals and stuff like that, just because we're up against the preserve. And she sees a purple ball or purple thing sticking out of the ground, and she goes and picks it up, and it ends up being a 4 purple pool ball. And what's odd about that for us is 1, 4 and co. So out of all the pool balls that could have been in the ground, there's a 4. And the fact that it's purple, which was our branding colors, a mix of our branding colors, which is blue and red, is purple. And the fact that it's a circle, which is already our logo. And we already had all this stuff. We already had named 4 and co. We already had our logo. We already had our branding colors.
Right.
And this has already been a graded plot of land. Like, it's already has pipes in it, has electric in it. Like, there's already been activity, and it's been farmland for years.
Right. Oh, yeah.
What in God's name is a purple pool ball doing in the middle of the ground?
Right.
It has literally no reason to be
It's
there.
like no reason to be there, sure.
Like, it's not like there was like an old bar that was a pool house.
Right.
right? And it just happened from demolition, right? And
Exactly.
it's just little stuff like that, and it's you pray for stuff, and then you get those little signs, like you pray for a sign from God, like
Yeah.
sometimes like people they don't stop to smell the roses and even take that opportunity to like
Right.
observe what's around them
Correct.
and miss it, and it goes back to, I keep going back to your point of like when people say it's hard, well, it's easy for you.
Yeah.
It's like, stop and smell the roses, like
Right.
stop and look around, like it's
A
hard for
lot of
everybody.
hard work that went
Everybody.
into making it look easy.
Yep. It's hard for everybody. No, you're absolutely right. And I got that. I had somebody say something to me once, and it really hit me hard. When my daughter was born, she had really bad jaundice. And it was a real big struggle with us. We were going to the doctor every day. She had to get pricked on her foot every day. And like a newborn getting pricked is like the screams that come out of a newborn. It's heart-wrenching, right? I mean, Pierre, you don't have kids, so you don't know, but it is,
Yeah.
when a baby cries and it's your baby, it rocks your soul. And when a baby cries out of pain or agony, it is, I don't know how to explain it. It destroys you. And I remember a broker of mine was trying to contact me, and I was so overwhelmed with what was going on with Audrey. And I remember telling him, being like, hey man, listen, I'm so sorry. It's been like 2 weeks since I've gotten back to you, which wasn't appropriate. It's been 2 weeks that I haven't gotten back to you, but I've just been dealing with this and this. And he said, you know what, man, we're all dealing with problems, brother, but you should have gotten back to me. And I thought, what a jackass. In my head, I thought, what a jackass. How dare you, man? This is my daughter. And then I thought to myself, Felipe's right. You could have taken the 2 minutes to say, hey, brother, this is what's going on right now. I'm sorry. I'm going to get back to you when I can. But I didn't. I got stuck in what was going on, and I got distracted there. And I when I tell this story, some people are like, they're on my side. They're like, hey, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's your kid. But I'm like, yeah, but I have to see it from the point that everybody has those problems.
Right.
And if all of us took the moment to stop, smell the roses, and just, it would take me 30 seconds to respond to this guy. 10 seconds. Hey, I got this going on. And just to let him know, maybe he would have been supportive for me and understood, because it created animosity between him and I. And he eventually left my agency. I'm not saying it was over that, but that definitely added to the fact that he had lost belief in my ability to deal with situations. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the way I view it, because I believe in extreme ownership. Like, I want to own every problem that happens. I want to own every situation that happens. The only thing I don't want to own is success. I don't want to own the success. I want God to own that, because that's on him, not on me, because it's already been planned. It's already been designed, because I've got that faith, right? So I'm just like, hey man, if it works, it ain't because of me. It's because he granted it. So then my successes go to him, but my failures, they're on me. They're on me.
I was literally I meet with Tom every Thursday, and we get lunch together, and we're literally talking about this. Is like the whole idea that like the flesh, people were like, and like people's like aversion to the church and stuff like this and stuff like that. And basically my whole point was that like, yeah, because we're skeptical that people are coming to their flesh, right? Hence why God wrote a whole book on it called the Bible, and how to navigate the flesh.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and how to like not go through those pitfalls. And I think, but when I hear that story, I very much, it is very like godly. I would say godly of him, or brotherly of him, to call you out like that and say like, because the Bible does tell us to hold each other accountable, like even in times of struggle, like we still have responsibilities, we still have our duties, and I think it's it's a good point of reference, that story of like, stop and smell the roses. Like, you still have your responsibilities, you still got to do things, and like your hardships are your hardships, and they will always happen, but like your responsibility to other people will always be there as well.
Yeah.
Right. And your responsibility is at hand. I mean, it doesn't matter, they will always be at hand. And it's a matter of priority. And then you go into like the category of self-help books of like prioritizing stuff, because then you've got people that are people pleasers and people please to their demise,
Which is terrible too.
Yeah.
For sure. It's like staying focused on what you need to be focused on. And like you said, problems, they're there to serve us.
Yeah.
They're not there to deter us. And yeah, does it make it harder? But all the good things in life come off the back of something hard. Like the storm, run towards it. Be the buffalo.
Yeah.
Run towards the storm. Don't hide from it. Don't look for shelter. because it's going to find you.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be in that agony longer and longer and longer. It's best just to get through it, because that's why I actually get excited when things are rough. It's like 2 months ago, for the last like 2 months ago, rough times. But I'm excited because I'm like, I know what's going to happen once I make it through this.
Yeah, and
It's going to be beautiful.
And I asked the question too a while back. Was like, so like when God talks about sacrifice, like I know there's a sacrifice that needs to be made, whether it's giving up something or devoting to myself to something. And Tom stopped me and said, "No, it's not. It's your life. Your life is a sacrifice. That's the sacrifice that it is." And so your point of success goes to God is like, if you're walking in that way, like your success isn't because of you. It is because of you because you made the choices.
Sure.
And you're reaping the benefits of it. But at the same time, like that is because the word of God led you there.
Well, I think it's like what you said. It's smelling the roses and being observant, because if your faith is up there, you're observant of the signs that are happening that are leading you down the path that was built for you. But if you don't have that opportunity to kind of be observant of what's going on, hey, I sent you 2 boats and you're here. That's on you.
Yeah.
Right? But I sent you the boats. That's on me.
Yeah.
But you chose not to take them because you thought something else was going to happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not complicated.
No.
It's simple usually.
Yeah.
And then people want the cop out. Well, what about destiny or self-fulfilling prophecies?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, self-fulfilling prophecies exist. That's why crazy people that's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Correct.
Self-fulfilling prophecies. Like
Exactly. No, for sure.
So tell us about the funniest thing that ever happened to you in business.
The funniest thing that's ever happened to me in business. I mean, not much funny stuff happens in my line of work, but
Or a funny circumstance or something that you got put into. You're like, oh my gosh.
I mean, I've dealt with some crazy people before, and I always found humor in that, I would say this one lady, I remember this when it was me when I was working with Humana, and I was with one of my friends, Tim, this guy, my mentor, and we were with this lady, and she was on some serious drugs, man. Like she was hallucinating and seeing bees and stuff, and it was intense. We were like, what was that? So that one was pretty good. And I did see a woman that came to my seminar one time, and she like set up a TV, like an iPad, and she set up a TV, and she was literally eating popcorn and watching a movie during my presentation. And I was like,
Okay. What do I need to change up here?
It's the craziest thing ever. So, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people think that's funny. A lot of people are like, that's terrible, that's rude. And I'm like, but I thought it was funny, right? Because it was like, oh my goodness, like talk about testing my ability to speak in front of a crowd, right? So those things kind of tickled me pink when I saw those things. But yeah, most of the time in my line of business, stuff is never really funny, you know what I mean? But I would say those things are funny, but I have fun all the time at work. I like taking a positive approach on things that are happening with people. Like when someone starts going through I've got, my back is broken and I got lung cancer and I got this and I got that. I'll respond. I'll be like, man, are you in a competition to see who is the worst? Like, I'm confused. Like,
Right,
and then I'll get
right.
them to laugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like funny situations in health insurance, life insurance, they don't happen often, right?
Mm-hmm.
They
They're
do
very
happen.
heavy, serious topics. Yeah.
Usually pretty heavy, serious topics that nobody ever wants to really visit. But I think after the fact, especially dealing with me, I take a different approach. I think people lighten up to it and start to have a little bit more fun with it and things of that nature. But I would say some of the clients that I've run into I've run into some pretty crazy ones.
Mm.
And those have always been pretty fun to me, where I leave and I'm like, oh my God, like that was insane. So I think those are probably the funnier moments that have happened to me, is dealing with some crazy clients, for sure.
What's your favorite story that's happened to you?
The Rosalie McHugh one is a pretty good one,
Mhm.
where I just, I stumbled upon that. One of my, when I get big successes for clients, that's a good one too. Like when I have clients that, they got insurance and were kind of reluctant of the value, and then all of a sudden they have the worst thing happen to them like 2 months later. And because they have the insurance, they're in their best possible scenario. Whether it's finding the best doctor, getting to the best cancer hospital, or receiving huge lump sum checks of money, it's like they're like, oh my God, Philippe, this saved my life. This changed my life. Those are the things that keep me in the business. Those are the things that keep me saying, you know what? The 16-hour days for all these years, the amount of money that I've lost and invested, and it makes it all worth it to have people be like, thank you so much for, without like, being too serious, saving my life, And people will say that over the craziest stuff, They needed to get a drug that was not approved by insurance and you get it approved. And they're like, you saved my life. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I just got a drug approved for you. But it was a life-saving drug, right? Or a life-saving surgery approved, things like that, I've had clients that got bills for hundreds of thousands of dollars and they didn't know what to do. And they called me in desperation. And I was like, don't worry. This is a clerical mistake. I'll get it fixed. And within a couple of days, it gets fixed and they get a bill for $90 instead. And they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. So I think like stuff like that, those are my favorite moments. Those are the times that where I'm able to serve people. That's the best. Selling the insurance, to be honest with you, is like the worst part for me. And I always joke with other guys. I'm always like, you know what I'm terrible at? Writing the application. I'm great at selling it. I'm great at explaining the values. I'm great at servicing the client. But when I write the application, I just can't be bothered. A lot of times. I'm like, then it feels like it's over. Like I've won. And I'm like, it's great to win, but I don't want to win. You know what I mean? I know it sounds crazy to say that because I'm in sales, but sales, I don't really sell anything, so to speak. But I would say those are my happiest moments and my fondest moments and the best moments of insurance is being able to serve somebody in some kind of capacity. It doesn't always have to be from sickness or from anything of that nature, but just being able to help somebody, right? Like in I don't know, 8 months when you're through that level funding and I'm able to deliver a check to you guys are going to be pretty happy about that, right? And I've done that for larger companies where I've delivered $60,000, $70,000 checks. And they're like, what's this for? And I said, well, this is your unused claims dollars. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, you've never seen one of these before, have you? And they're like, I've never gotten a check back from an insurance company. I'm like, well, welcome to the new world, right? And they're like, what?
And it's crazy because like I'm an idiot. I say this to everyone and anyone. I don't care who I'm in front of. I'm an idiot.
Right.
But when I tell people the simple thing of like, you have untapped value in your jewelry box, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, is your jewelry insured, bonded, and appraised? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, untapped value. Right? And it's just like these little tricks and tips and tricks about insurance because most people have zero clue as to the real reason as to why insurance exists. No one most people do not understand the full reason as to why it exists. People think it's a very like simple transaction. I buy it for things that I don't know may happen and damage my property. That is like the most surface level thing.
Correct.
For like insurance.
Usually like car insurance is like what, because everybody's got to have it. That's like the most common one. And it's so heavily advertised that that's where usually people go. But to your point, insurance is not a new concept. King Hammurabi invented insurance essentially because the Babylonians needed it. It was required by law. Hammurabi's laws, right? This is a real thing. People are like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, dude.
This is the way it's explained. It didn't say insurance.
Yeah, it doesn't say insurance, but they say you need to talk to this guy and give him money in case this happens. Then you have this money that will pay for that so you're not in hardship. And he did it to better society. So no one was left without. And it's a sharing kind of system. But insurance has existed for a very long time. That's why life insurance is great because it predates our tax system. That's why life insurance can grow tax-free because it's older than our tax code. People are like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, man. You can't mess with that. People are like, insurance is an American thing. No, it's not. You get life insurance all over the world, health insurance all over the world. Well, in Canada, they have free insurance. I said, yeah, they've got a socialized insurance system, but they also have private insurance. Like if you're having a heart attack and you don't want to wait 6 years or 6 months for an operation, you better have some private insurance.
Yeah, they still have it in the UK too. They have private insurance.
Sweden, all these social democrat countries, because that's what they are, social democratic countries, that have these unbelievable tax codes that help pay for a free system.
Correct.
I'm a Swedish citizen. So when I have family in Sweden, they're all on private insurance. They don't use the regular one because that, for whatever anybody's beliefs are, that's for the people that come into the country and are able to use the system for free based on tax dollars. They fill up all those appointment slots. So if you need something, you've got to wait forever to see a substandard doctor.
Yeah.
Where if you had the private insurance, you have immediate access a little bit faster. So it's all about wants and needs. But even in countries like that, that's happening. And when people, this is always a fun thing. Oh, I wish we had a system like they do in Sweden, right? Or in England. I'm like, do you know how many people live in those countries? Right? It's like the population of
Right.
Florida. It's not the United States of America.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on a road in Europe? Like driven on one? How big is it? It's tiny, right?
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between building a road in Europe and building a road in America is immense because our roads are so much wider? Also, what's the average living space of someone in Europe? Like, can you imagine you told every single American, hey, you can only live in a 600 square foot home? They'd be like, what are you talking about? My garage is 1,600 square feet. If you ask Europeans and say, is your bathroom air conditioned? They'd be like, what? Are you crazy? You'd be like, well, if you told an American living in Florida, hey, you've got to go to the bathroom with no air conditioning. Can
More
you
likely to be
imagine?
heated.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I read a recent report that the number one fear of Floridians is their AC breaking. It's the number one fear. It's not shootings or hurricanes or COVID or whatever. Alligators, water moccasins. It is my AC breaking during the summer.
Or a car AC, even worse.
Or a car AC, where you look at these other countries and they're
Yeah.
like, we don't even have that, right? And it's like, yeah, you want this, but you're not willing, again, to do what it takes in order to have a social system like they have in Europe.
My jaw dropped when I found out my dad grew up without AC in Egypt.
It's
Just
nuts.
the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Like, no AC, just
Mhm.
hanging out.
Dry heat,
And then-
Sahara heat, like
and then-
absolutely not.
My modern self realized that there's a civilization that lived in Egypt for generations on end. No AC.
No AC.
In the heat.
None.
There are plenty
Like-
of places in the world that have no AC.
That's it. And
And-
they're wearing like robes and like, full clothes. And you think, what are they doing? Well, they're natural AC, right?
Mhm.
And then you don't even think about the other side, which I'm sure you know and your dad knows, is that, Egypt's got some seasons. And they have
Mhm.
seasons where the sand just blows like crazy. Because when I lived in Cyprus, we would get that sand
Yeah.
off the coast of Egypt,
Mhm.
would cross the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And you could not have your windows open that time of year because you'd have 9 pounds of sand inside your house.
I'm pretty sure it also affects the Gulf Stream.
It's insane.
It affects the Gulf Stream from England to Florida because when it blows west, the years that it blows west, it like messes with our water quality or
Absolutely.
something like that, or air quality.
It's nuts, man, how one thing equals to the other. But I would say that's a crazy misconception. And that's why I always tell people that, like, living in America is by far the most comfortable country on the planet.
Oh, very
like, oh
privileged
my gosh,
society.
the conveniences, the opportunities, and the comforts that we have here are blessings in their own. Like, even to be broke in America is better than being broke somewhere else in the world, for sure, without a doubt.
100%.
Kind of went sideways on that, but that's okay.
But yeah,
Well, on that note, I think we are going to go to our last question to Filip, which is going to be
question.
Yeah.
I was just going to continue the conversation, but
okay.
no,
I
but
love
in terms of insurance, I mean, this I think artists have the ultimate hack. Like, if you're a good artist, what you can do is literally go to a bank, or not go to a bank. Before you go to a bank, you go to get it insured, get it appraised, get it bonded. Go to a bank and say, loan me money based on this. They'll say, okay, do you have all of that? They'll be like, yep, I do. You give them that. What's the worst that happens? You don't pay your loan. What do they collateralize your art?
Correct.
Piece of painting. What are you gonna do next? Oh, maybe paint another one.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the ultimate hack. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can use like insurance as a hack for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's been around for years and years and years. And that's why it's so implemental in what you do for growing wealth, securing wealth, getting loans, doing things like that. I mean, it's unbelievable what you can do with insurance, It really, really is.
that's it.
Just want to talk about art?
Yeah,
that my
that
question?
was
About art?
that was the last thing. Yeah, but I know, yeah.
What else you want to ask, Filip?
I feel like Mom's got a question.